excited. I know I've not been away that long, but it's nice to be back and good to see you all. And I noticed they've already dispensed with my chair. I hope I don't come back in 8 weeks and find it in the river, okay then, or we'll be having words with the team. It's lovely to see you all. Derek and Anne unfortunately couldn't make it as they had car problems coming up from Wales last night, but we thank them for their ministry over the season that I will be on sabbatical. And just to say, we recognise that just even from Victoria's announcement at the beginning that we've had a few new people come in and join us. So we just want to give a little bit of an explanation today. Today will not be a normal preach. We love preaching from the Word of God and we love lifting that up. But today is a little bit of a different presentation from me. And so we hope that even as our guest today, that you appreciate some of the things that I have to share today with the congregation. If you are our guest today and you've only been coming for a few weeks or even today for the first time, please come and see Vicky. And she's got parking vouchers which we will give you for complimentary parking. So please make sure you do not pay for parking if you've parked in the hotel car park. And so I want to just share with you something that is very much on the horizon. It's time now for me to share some of the things that have been happening over the last 8 or so weeks, and perhaps a bit longer, going back nearly a year for me in terms of prayer. And things have really come to a bit of a crunch time in terms of possibly the future of our fellowship. We just want to share those things with you. And today, with Derek and I not being able to meet, gives me the opportunity to step in and share some of those things with you as we talk forward. As we move forward. Over the last... I was going to say the last few months, the last few years, the last decade. James, do we have this on overhead? Yeah, so I know it was dunking a biscuit in his tea there, I think, were you? Okay then, thank you. So over the last decade and longer, it's always been the intention of our church to find a new home that we can have a resident place of worship. And we have looked at over the dozens, going all the way back to Pastor Graham's tenure as pastor, goes all the way back as for their desire to find a new home for us. And during the last 15 or so years, as a church, we've had times of great blessing, we've had peaks and we've had troughs. But a lot of our church context and structure has been around the limitations of hiring premises because of midweek ministry and discipleship classes and social care and having a resident place of worship. And that's always been on our heart to try and fix that. You will appreciate that in York, that has been incredibly difficult because of the prices in York and the speed in which developers move in order to buy up property, that every time we've almost looked at something, it's been sold that day that it came on the market for incredible amounts of money, more than we could ever pay or justify. Over the last, about a year ago, I had an opportunity to go and look at a church building, and that sat with me for a whole year. And then as we were just praying about it, and then latterly, that building has come on the market. And we're going to talk about that building and where we are in terms of our desire to try and acquire that building for our church. We're always nervous to share with you when we're pursuing the building because we don't want to disappoint if we don't get it. And so it's almost trying to take the church on this emotional journey and not be left with disappointment. And so, but we are at a critical junction where we do need your support, both prayerfully and possibly in the future financially as well. And I think that will play a big part in how we go forward as well. Many of you will know that the church on Monkgate, the Methodist Trinity Church, came up for sale about, 2.5 months ago. And we have been pursuing this building for throughout that time. There's been an incredible team of people. It's been a building committee and a team of elders who have been back and forth with all sorts of architectural ideas and plans and refurbishments and costing. There's been a whole framework that's had to be presented to the Methodist Church and to our agents and to our central headquarters, of course. So those have been key features, and there's been a massive amount of work that has gone into preparing a package that can satisfy all the agencies involved in our bid for this particular building. The offers closed last Friday or last Thursday, so the official offers closed a week ago. And it came down, and there was 10 people who bid for this building. There was 2 top-tier offers, and we were one of those churches. And so we were placed in the top tier, and that's why we are at this critical place, because we need your prayer and we need your understanding of what the next stage should be. Last night, our team met. And I have to say that they courageously, so the 2 top bidders were asked to submit a fresh bid in terms of their offer for this building. We had already presented a figure that was satisfactory both to ourselves and to Elim headquarters. But because we were so close to another organisation, then the 2 top organisations were asked to resubmit a fresh bid. We haven't been given a lot of time. We've been asked to submit that bid by tomorrow. So we were only given 3 days in order for us to submit a fresh bid. And so our team met last night, and I have to say that they courageously decided to increase our bid by a very significant proportion, a bold step. A step of faith, and there was a lot of conversation around the context of faith and what God might be saying to us. But I want to thank all of our team. Some of our team are at Limitless Camp, of course, and they could only have a say that was relayed back through James and Vicky. And so this is the church that we are after, and it is crunch time tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And there's 2 people going after this building. This is the inside of the building. I'm going to talk you through some photographs just to give you an idea of our vision. So it's a large Methodist church with a very large balcony, and we'll show some pictures of that. And what they've done is, with the lower hall, they have partitioned off the lower hall. So there are lots of side rooms around the lower hall. The lower hall seats about 100 people. But the balcony seats about 180 people. And then there's lots of auxiliary rooms around the building. It's our intention to put a mezzanine unit, say a floor, obviously because the ceiling, Steve McKenzie has helped in this process. We're going to put a mezzanine unit right in the middle there, so that the floor goes over the middle, and the balcony and the pews will be taken out, and we'll have a hall of about 280 people upstairs, and downstairs will be used for a drop-in cafe, for our Sunday school, for our children's work, for our youth work, and for all sorts of other things as well. Because the side rooms have been partitioned off, there are a whole number of rooms. I think there's 3 or 4 on one side and 2 on the other, but sufficient, certainly, and there's 1 or 2 smaller rooms upstairs and to the side. But it's a wonderful opportunity for us. We have been very limited in how we can minister to each other midweek, because we hire this church only on a Sunday. Our prayer and worship practice will take on a whole new context. Our children's work and Sunday school will have a whole new lease of freedom. It's been one of the biggest limitations here in the hotel, that we've only got 2 auxiliary rooms, one for creche and one for Sunday school. And that's been a real limitation in terms of all-age Christian teaching. We will be thinking in the future about parents and toddlers groups, about drop-in cafe, and working with some of the charities around the church in terms of both mental health and social care and food bank, and locking into all of those charities to be a drop-in centre and guiding people into those respective charities. This is the entrance, so it's a reasonable entrance when we go in. It allows for great hospitality and welcome and tea and coffee just as we come into the church. We're also, not immediately, but we're going to obviously put a glass lift in, which will allow disabled access to go to the first floor. And as you come in, you'll come into where the lift is, and that will take us right into the main sanctuary upstairs. So there are great plans for it. Here we have a picture really of the upstairs. And so, as I say, those pews will come out, and we'll put a mezzanine floor. Around the side will be theatre-style seating with regular seats in the middle, and that will seat about 260, 280 people. There is a full-size kitchen, which eventually would need to be refurbished to become a bit more, perhaps, professional. But it's a really large kitchen for all sorts of events and things that are going on. And the old Elim Link want to know is, does it have a decent kitchen? And yes, it does. Yes, Elim Link, it has a decent kitchen. And it's one of the things that Elim Link have got an incredible bridge between the Filipino community in York. And this opportunity will release that group of people to invite so many people into our church for special events. So again, we will be able to have city events, worship evenings, Elim Link and Filipino events. We will have organised, so remember this will be a blank hall right across the middle floor. And that is very exciting for us and for our youth. It's just a small thing in passing. I know that Limitless Camp has already been mentioned. This is the first year. How many kids have we got to go into camp? 13 children, including our leaders, have gone to camp. And that's the first time for a whole number of years. And they're going to come back transformed. And so God is doing something special through Pastor Josh and the team. There's no doubt about that. And that's just absolutely amazing. So here we have a kitchen on the left, and then we've got a number of auxiliary spaces and offices that can be used for office or children's work, etc., around the building as well. And you can see that eventually, again, because the toilets are downstairs, we hope to take the organ out and replace that with a full suite of toilets at the back of the church. And so that there will be toilets upstairs as well, including disabled toilets. So we really have quite a big vision for this building, okay then. And we are working ferociously in putting those ideas together. Because we are having to raise our bid tomorrow, then it's going to push back the timeline in terms of our spending on the building. But we would rather that we had a building. It's like when you buy a new house and it's got a bit of a scabby kitchen, but you've spent all your money on the mortgage, and you just think, well, it just has to wait, doesn't it? That's what you have to wait until you get more money. And that's kind of where we're at with this now, that we've kind of taken this step. And so there are certain things that we hope to try and do in the first 12 months and 24 months. That might become 12 months and 36 months or 48 months as we pray and reach out to you. We're going to be looking for grants and for all sorts of other ministries that will take place in the church, which will help us in our way forward. There is quite a substantial, because it's an older building, it's not really been taken care of in the last 10 or so years. On the whole, structurally, we had a full survey, and structurally the building is okay. I would give it a 90% pass. There are things that need to be done. The main things would be just some damp proofing in the basement and electrics and just fixing up just some window frames, etc. And no doubt when we get in, there'll be other things that will come out of the cupboard that we have to deal with. And we will be looking at fixing all of those areas and bringing in professional people to help us in the restoration of the building. And again, the team that has been behind me have just been exemplary in helping me put together. So it needs a substantial amount of refurbishment to bring it to a high standard of excellence. Once we have achieved that point, then we will be looking to let it out commercially for day conferences and for other business uses. That has to come further down the road. But just because of our budget and because of the issue concerning business rates around the city, then we need to keep it centrally as a place of worship, at least for the first few years. I'll just make my way through. So again, this is the upper level, and the floor will come from the very base of really of that banister there. Just at that point, that's where the floor will be as we look at bringing in a self-contained steel unit, which will become the floor, and some extra walls and windows on the side. We would love to have a midweek cafe. This will be converted to the main Sunday school when all the children meet for games and youth, and then during the day it will turn into, and the main door literally will be just on this side, and there's a whole glass front there which we'll try and keep out with, trying to make some adjustments for the lift. But there's an incredible opportunity here for us as a church, and in that cafe there's an opportunity to have a drop-in centre, as I say, for all sorts of people in need around us. One of the areas right behind the church is the groves, and we've got a real heart, and again we're trying to think ahead in terms of our mission and our outreach and the gospel. But the groves is a wonderful opportunity for us, working in collaboration with some of the other churches who are already doing a great job. But to go in there and to make an investment into that community, and some parts of that community, and I just want to honour that community, but some of those areas are on the fringe of society and more deprived, and we want to go in there with greater mental health needs and to be a centre where people can come and talk to us, and if we can't help them, to refer them to the right people who can. And that for us is very exciting. Because it's on Monkgate, it's one of the most visible streets that you can get in the whole of York. And that will, in itself, it's in close proximity to York St John's. It's in close proximity to the hospital. And that gives us a whole network into the medical team there and nurses, etc., to begin to be a place of worship that people can come and talk to us about the stresses of life. There is so much more to say, and I wish I could have time to say that. If you have any questions on what we want to do, then please, over the next few weeks, I know I'm on sabbatical, but I've set some of my sabbatical time to prepare for this journey. And you can write to myself or any one of the elders, and that will be shared amongst us all anyway. So, if you feel that you would rather just send it to Joshua or to Vicky or to anyone, then we will just collate those questions, and we will, if we're successful, we will find a morning to address those questions to take you forward. There's one outstanding issue that we've had to wrestle a little bit, and that's about parking. Okay, then, parking is an issue in York because there isn't any. Basically, that's the issue, and so there is a car park just behind. It's more expensive than what we would normally be paying here in the hotel. There's a council car park, but we are at this moment strategically looking at other businesses around the church that can lease their space to us on a Sunday morning. so that we're at least walking distance. There is reasonable parking, but 5 or 10 minutes away if you don't want to pay for parking. But we are trying to work with a few other organisations in the area that will give us parking in the closest proximity possible, and because of the limitations of parking on Monkgate itself. Our heart was to be near the university and to be near the city, and to be as central as possible. Within, I had always thought, a half a mile to the city walls. That's a tall order if you want parking. The closer you get to the city, the less likely that becomes. City centre parking is a problem for any church. And we look at some of the larger churches in the city centre, they just seem to cope. They seem to manage. And we will have to think a little bit out of the box. I used that phrase from Tony Hare, who's not with us today, is poorly. But he tells us to think out of the box when it comes to parking. That there are solutions, and we will do our very best to find those solutions as we go forward. I'm not going to say much more, only for the sake of time. Graham Hutchison was the pastor here for almost 20 years, and he has been part of my team in this project. And I would ask Graham if he would be kind enough to come and to share his thoughts just for a few minutes, and then we're going to have some prayer together.
Good morning. I've made some notes so I don't waffle and take up too much time. I didn't expect this. I support this. This is fantastic. And you should feel it in your spirit already. I'm honoured that Pastor Paul has asked me to make some comments. I mean, it's been kind of Paul to allow Penny and I to continue being part of this fellowship. I was appointed pastor here in the summer of 1999. So yes, about 20 years I was pastor here until I retired. During that time, I pursued, and I can't remember how many buildings, and the speed that they went off the market and the price that they went for. I won't bore you with that. I have always had a very high view of the building we're talking about. One church was looking for somewhere to meet, and I said to them, I tell you where I would recommend. And they did a deal with the Methodists, and they shared it with the Methodists for a few years before moving on. Then another church said something similar. I said, that's the church building you should look at. Fantastic, for so many reasons. And that was Ark Church. They were there for a few years as well. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. We've got the opportunity to give a gift to the next generation, a fantastic building. And I want to say that I know what the bid is, and obviously it wouldn't be right to say that this morning. Incredible that this church was able to bid alongside others, and then were given the opportunity to bid again. Just two churches bidding against each other. And I know that this church has put in a very bold bid. A bid of, it's costed, it's not crazy, but a bid of great faith. It's a bold one. I pray we get it. God knows, I pray we get it. But if we don't get it, it won't be due to any loss of boldness and faith when it came to our bid. So pray for it.
It's wonderful. Vicky, are you going to lead us in this prayer time? Or thank you. Thank you, Graham, and God bless you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. So we'd like now to pray together as a group. This building isn't ours yet, and we need your prayers. So we claim that it's ours, Julia. Amen. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you just to get into small groups of 4 or 5 and pray together. And we're just going to spend some time praying into this bid that is being submitted tomorrow at 5 o'clock. and all that God wants to do for us. So yeah, and we've just in the prayer circle at the back, there's a picture of a wall. If anybody, the children, adults alike, anybody feels that they just want to draw something or write something while we're all praying, then that's available there as well. So yeah, if you'd just like to move into groups, please.
And it might be helpful to say that if you are our guest today, and I understand that you've got your home church, and we thank you for being here just for whatever reason you're with us today. We don't want to pressurize anyone, so even if you're not able to engage directly with this project or get into a group in terms of your style of prayer, then please just take the time to sit on your own and to worship God and to pray your prayers that are of interest to you in your fellowship back home. And we just honour you for being here. But for us as a fellowship, we're just going to get into some groups and we're going to do what Vicky has asked.